Okay, Pioneers, we are back with the second video of our metagame series. So in the first video, you should click on the comment section or description below. I'll put out a link there. So in the first video we were discussing decks which were basically revolving around previously existing powerful standard strategies and potentially can port over into the Pioneer format, at least in the beginning. And in this video what we're gonna discuss is a few strategies that are kind of generic in every format, meaning that they, the similar style of deck exists in modern, they can be built in legacy even, or like older formats, or be it they may not be as competitive or like necessarily tier 1, but nonetheless they exist. So there's a bunch of these in Pioneer because the card pool is like pretty huge. I don't even know how many sets we are talking about at this point, but definitely like 6 years. So like quick maths, 4 sets a year, so that's like 24 sets, 25 sets. So there's a lot of good cards in this card pool and we can build those decks. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it and we will see some of the classics here which people love to play back in the day. So our first contender is obviously Monorail Aggro. So this deck was reigning a lot of terror like back in the day in, I guess it was the Among Us format, yeah, Kaladesh Among Us format, which was basically the entire metagame revolved around red aggro and red-black aggro, which was kinda splashing a few cards here and there. But the core concept was essentially the same. So what we are trying to do is aggressively sinking in damage with efficient creatures, and generally the creatures in the deck are good early, good late. So Earthshaker Kenra is one of those type of cards which is good early threat, but if we have enough mana we can just eternalize it and we get a much better threat. We have burn spells like Lightning Strikes, Abrade was one of the key components. I guess Stoke the Flame is legal in the format, and also now red decks apparently have card draw in the form of Light of the Stage. And we can and what makes these decks super dangerous is that they are not like like a basically one-sided or one-trick pony type aggressive decks, but they can produce a pretty resilient late game with stuff like Torbrand, Thane of the Redfell, which is 2/4, and it deals every red source deals 2+ damage. Can you guys imagine this to the Goblin, not Goblin Rubber Master, Goblin Chain Wailer? That's just insane. That's just completely a one-sided, one-sided board wipe in those cases. And then we can play planeswalkers like Chandra, Torch of Defiance, which is like a super resilient threat. Also from the sideboard we can play like Growlibingers, and what makes this deck really atrocious it's basically 2 cards, the Rampaging Ferocidon, which prevents life gain, so that can be extremely hard for our opponent to survive long enough to stabilize the board, and Raminep Ruins, which is basically a land we can sacrifice the desert for 4 mana and it deals 2 damage to each opponent. So this is something which our opponent cannot really interact with, and it can easily sink in a few more points of damage to win the game. So Mono Red would definitely be a good contender. It would be insanely powerful in the format. I think what really will matter to find the right ratios between these spells to make our draws and also the land count to make our draws as consistent as possible. But yeah, like Mono Red, I definitely for one don't really want to play against this deck in the format. So then we should move on to the next deck, which is another classic White Winnie, almost exists in any format. What White Winnie deck's trying to do, the difference here between the red decks and the white decks, these are also decks which have a generally aggressive stance, but the big difference between the two decks, that white decks doesn't really have reach. In terms of, or in the form of burn spells. So what they are trying to do, they try to provide more resilient threat like planeswalkers at the end of the curve. So really the idea is get to the board early, go wide and go big. Also at the same time, creatures like Kittian, Hero of Akros, Tribal Inspector, which leaves the clue token, and we can have like a little bit of card draw at the late game. Precinct Captain, which is a very aggressive early threat and it can generate more board presence, always watching, so this helps us our opponent helps our deck not just go wide but also go big. venerated locks and also puts counters on our creatures, and then we can curve into planeswalkers like Gideon, Ajani, which helps us re-establish board presence should we lost it. So that's basically the core of the deck. So it's an interesting aggressive stance deck, and I think obviously this is gonna be a contender in the format because there's just so many good cards, even some of the good removal, the convoke spells and things of that nature. So white we need definitely something to be aware of and watch out for these decks. And our next one in the list is an absolute classic since 93-94, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mono Black Control. Let's just call it Mono Black. Like this stance is mid-range control, whatever. I don't want to establish or get into this argument, but really what the deck is trying to do. And this format, I would like to highlight a card which I think will be format defining. This is Thoughtseize. So having Thoughtseize make this deck exist. Thought's and Duress, because what can happen with the mono black decks that we can have like really resilient sets such as like a pack rat, or just beat out our opponents down with Midwood, and we can really set those plays up by Thoughtseizing first, stripping our opponents from counters or removal, play the pack rat, starts making reds, and our opponent won't really have a time to catch up. This is also something which makes this deck actually good against many of the combo decks, because we can strip up their hands and apply pressure on them. Also we have insanely good removal, Fader Push, Murderous Rider. Notably black is a color which doesn't really have much problem removing planeswalkers, since Heroes Down for Murderous Rider and the Elder Spell are all in the format. Pack Rat was a format defining threat back in the day, because we can convert every one of our cards to a new pack rat and new threat. Metavolt was playing very well around the rats, forcing our opponent in many blocks in combat or like just having bad attacks. And now the card draw engine used to be Underworld Connections, but now we got Castle Locked Vein or a combination of that too. And that will make this deck really powerful in the format. So I think I absolutely expect Mono Black to be a thing, at least at the inception of the format, and see where we are going from there. And our next candidate is the blue tempo / aggro deck. So this is not really a defined deck. What I'm trying to present here, I'm just trying to basically put out some of the options that we can. And one thing notable that these decks are absolutely not something which is set in stone. I may imagine having like multiple iterations of mono red aggressive deck, one with more burn spells, less creatures, the one which is going like a little bit more resilient on the long game with planeswalkers, and one like hyper aggressive creature based deck with Cavalcade of Calamities. So there's many flavors to these, but I just would like to highlight the potential card pool and the direction where these decks will take us. So Mono Blue is basically getting to the board early with Spectral Sailors or like 1-drop, 2-drop creatures. Cloudfin Raptor used to be a big thing because there was a 0/1 fire which evolved and could get pretty big. Tempest Gene definitely plays very well with having a lot of islands. Thus God of the Sea plays well with Spectral Sailor and Tempest Gene, because this is just a 3-mana 5/5 indestructible beater, which is really hard to solve, and it lets us cry. And then creatures can be unblockable. We have Curious Obsession or Bident of Tassa for card advantage, and generally what we are trying to do is to establish a board presence and have counter spells up. I use Wizard's Retort here for illustration purposes. I have no idea what type of counter spells this deck is going to use in the future, but there will be definitely something which lets them interact with the opponent once they establish that early board presence and just keep pressuring the life total. And one addition which helps us going like a little bit longer and bigger is Master of Waves. So Master of Waves is basically generate 2 elemental tokens for every blue mana symbol on the battlefield, and this deck is going to have a lot of blue mana symbols, ladies and gentlemen. So please welcome upwards to like 5 to 10 elementals, which is significant board presence. So Master of Waves definitely army in a can. So yeah, so people, even just from the perspective of nostalgia, will bring back Mono Blue, but I think the deck will actually be strong in the format, a lot of good cards again. And then moving on, our next candidate, so this is the green-ish ramp. So I'm illustrating here the green cards, but you know, like after we make 1,000,000 mana, we might as well splash whatever color we want. So the payoff can come from basically any color, but what we're really trying to do, and this is I think a particular flavor which I expect to see, and there will be another ramp type of flavor which I will show later in the third video. That's more like Elf Tribal. But really the idea is that have mana accelerators like Elvish Mystic, Lenovo Elf in the deck, cast Burning Tree Emissaries, get a board presence early, and try to either be aggressive or ramp out more acceleration in the mid game, like Nissa who shakes the world every forest step for an additional mana, or Nikto's Shrine to Nyx, because we have so many of these green mana symbols. And once we can generate a jillion mana, we're gonna cast like big threats such as Garu, Caller of Beasts, which can find us more and more big creatures, or Pulakran Sword Eater. That was one of the big things in the standard format. I'm not sure what will exactly be the payoff here. These are really just for illustration purposes. Then we can have like a 5/5 Hydra, which next turn we can make, I don't know, like a 15/15 and decimate our opponent's board. So these are pretty relevant plays, and that's how the deck is really trying to do. But I like the Burning Tree Emissary angle in this, because if we can, you know, apply early pressure on our opponents, if we don't really have the necessary mana acceleration or the payoff to accelerate into. So that's another angle for these decks. So definitely, yeah, now we have Finale of Devastation. I think that's the green finale. So yeah, those are the type of payoffs that we are looking at with these decks. Yeah, once upon a time harp gluing the whole deck together. So I think there's definitely a place for a red based ramp strategy, which can be blue into hydrate classes. It can be a lot of different things, to be honest, what we can ramp into. Moral of the story, green is able to generate a lot of mana, and how will we use this mana is up to us. So these are the monocolored one, and I have like two classic here, which is again present in every Eternal format basically. Yeah, anything which is remotely resembling any Eternal play. So the first one is Black Green XX. So I'm highlighting here Abzan, but this can be John, this can be Sultai, depending on what colors you decide to splash. The black green is the basic, and what we are trying to do is trade a lot 1/1, and then put out something which pull us ahead of our opponents. So Tots is one of those cards which again makes this deck viable, so we can, you know, strip combo decks from their combo pieces, we can remove counter spells from our control opponents' hands or removals, and it plays like some very resilient creatures. Generally the creatures of the deck plays good early, good late. So Tireless Tracker is good as a 3/2, but if you play it late game and can immediately start making and cracking clues, then this can become a significant threat. We play Planeswalkers on the cheaper end, Liliana the Last Hope, Siege Rhino bridging us from the mid game to the late game. And again, we can play finishers like Kalita, Straighter of Get, we can make like again Army in a can, start killing our opponent's creatures. Obviously remover spells are part of this package, and then maybe we can put like a couple of spells which lets us go over our opponent, like Seasons Pass, which can get us a lot of card advantage in the late game. So Black Green X decks are traditionally existing in every format. They prefer trading 1/1 and then establish a situation where, you know, the one leftover card, what they have is actually better than what the opponent has, and that card is going to win the game for them. So they have a lot of these type of powerful things. And then the last one, but absolutely not least, is an absolute doozy. So this one guys, you want to watch out for, because if I expect any emergency bans, I think it will probably revolve around this deck. And again, I just tried to put out a few cards resembling what the deck is trying to do, but this is something which can go really disgusting. So this one is Control. And the reason why I'm saying it, because newer players may not know or may not have seen very good control decks before. Since Return to Ravnica, Wizards is pretty much in, you know, very apologetic mode about like control decks, and the reason is exactly this deck. So what this control deck is trying to do, and I would like to highlight the key pieces here. And basically every card is almost a key piece. So Azorius Charm, which may not look much, but this card literally does everything. So one of the cards which really has good control decks are cards which are versatile. So we have a lot of options about the effect, and Azorius Charm does exactly that. So it either help our creatures get life gain, which we don't play too many, so this is the least used mode. Help us cycle, draw cards, find our land drops, whatever we require, if the board is clean and the game is not really progressing to any direction which is very threatening to us, or it can remove a creature from combat. So this versatility almost always help us to, you know, reach the mid game where we have like Sweepers or Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, which can either set off card advantage engine or remove our opponent's board. And again, like the premise of these decks is the longer the game goes, their chance of winning that game is increasing by every single turn passing. And the reason why that one is the case is because of the next 2 cards, 3 cards. Well, the third card is just, I don't know, like this could technically be anything. But the next 2 cards, Dig Through Time, definitely like setting up Dig Through Time, meaning that we find our deck, find from our deck basically whatever we want, because you can look at the top 8 cards and find 2 of them. And what we really want to find here is Sphinx's Revelation. So Sphinx's Revelation is the reason why this strategy would probably be really atrocious, and I can see some emergency banning around this concept, because what's the problem with Sphinx's Revelation for the rest of the format? That it just does everything. So it's not only draws cards, which control decks wants. So the ideal play pattern is that we trade a lot of 1-for-1, we lose our life total, and then at the end of the game we're gonna draw more cards, so we turn the corner that way. But this not only draws us a lot of cards, but gains us life. So our opponent's hope is generally that, okay, we draw a lot of cards, but they can sneak through the last 4 points of damage or last couple of points of damage. That hope is getting crushed by Sphinx's Revelation, because when we cast it for X equal to 6, we're gonna gain 6 life, and we're gonna have a lot of cards, and so we establish ourselves on the wrong game. And on the top of all that, this is an instant. So we're gonna cast this on our opponent end step, untap with it, have counter spells up, and they just never gonna do anything. We're gonna meet our land drops from there, and we're gonna start casting bigger and bigger Sphinx's Revelations, because obviously we're gonna pay 4 in these decks, and we're just getting further and further ahead, up until the point that we can kill our opponent basically with whatever we want. I put in Aetherlink here as a kill condition, but I don't even think this is gonna see play. I think people will put it to the sideboard because they don't want to go to time, so they actually need to kill their opponents fast. But Teferi, Hero of Dominaria can equally be a kill condition, or back in the day people use Elixir of Immortality, which shuffles the graveyard and graveyard back into the deck, so they just keep looping Sphinx's Revelation and draw their entire deck, shuffle it back again until the opponent basically decides to concede, because they're never gonna resolve any spells and they have no chance of winning the game. So this deck is the control deck archetype basically. So I don't think there's any better control deck in any of the Magic the Gathering formats, and if there is any emergency banning happening or any banning, I would expect that coming off from here. So this is a completely inhumane to play against. That's something which is very interesting in Pioneer, that we can play all these like broken cards, and really this is a traditional control. Like it really fulfills that promise that if the game goes long, you're gonna win no matter what. Like you can beat Sphinx's Revelations, instant speed, and your opponent always having counter spells out. That's just not a beatable concept. And so that's why probably what people try to do is being like super aggressive, and I think that's the direction to go against these decks, or trying attacking from multiple angle. But again, like Sphinx's Revelation, the problem with that card is that it builds back your board presents from multiplying. Or if you low on life, it gives you life. If you are low on card, it gives you cards. So it's just really hard to beat if you reach the late game. So that's all about control. I fully expect to be this one to be a prime contender, and I think this will be format defining. And I think if this deck is not very good, that means that there's a lot of very aggressive deck in the format. So that can be the only reason why this is not working. But then yeah, the format is shifting, and once mid-range deck starts to beat on the aggressive deck, then this control deck will come back to prey on the mid-range deck, so everything else which is not hyper aggressive. So yeah, so that's for our second video. So these were the decks which I absolutely see playing, because you know, if you have a big card pool, people generally tend to build these decks, and these are what these colors tend to do in Magic in general. So if you have enough cards, you can build concepts around these. So this was our second video, and in the third video we're gonna discover a couple of concepts which revolve around cards which didn't really find their place in their standard format, but they will become a lot better once we have 35 sets of card pools supporting them. So that will be an interesting one. And let me know guys in the comment section below if I have left anything out, or what do you think about these decks. Do you agree, disagree? Do you think that control is not really gonna be a contender? So let me know about these in the comment section. Obviously I appreciate likes and subscriptions. It will eventually help me make more and more videos. So thanks for watching, and see you guys at chapter 3.